Right, in this quick video, I'm going to be explaining a concept to you that was new to me in the last year, and it's how to actually pitch a prospect via cold email in 2026. Basically, a step by step guide on the new way of thinking. So, before I dive into this, I just want to say a big credit to Jordan Crawford for this way of thinking. If you haven't heard of Jordan Crawford, it's definitely worth checking his YouTube channel out. But I've been following his work for over a year now, and more I've started to implement his permissionless value prop framework and some of the other frameworks that he's been talking about. And I think more and more as time goes on, you're going to need to use these if you want to get results in GTM. So, how you can apply this today. If you were just going to watch this one tiny part of the video, this is pretty much what I want you to take away from it, which is basically next time you're about to write a cold email, you should try this exercise, which is think to yourself, if I had a perfect data about a company and a prospect, what email would I write? So you've got unlimited data about that company, you know everything about them, you know everything about that prospect. What email would you actually write to them? And then try and write that email. When you've written that email, you can start to reverse engineer whether you can actually find those data points that you talked about in that email publicly using a mix of custom scrapers and clay.com to kind of pull everything together. And you might not be able to find everything, but I guarantee you'll probably be able to find some of the stuff that you mentioned in the email. And this goes beyond just cold emails. So, like, once you've actually built a list of people who are actually experiencing pain, it doesn't matter which channel you get in front of them on because you know automatically what to say. It's so much easier to write the message to a list of people who you know are in pain rather than a generic list of companies that you've just scraped. So, this is the whole point of this video and something I wish I'd learned earlier, which is basically you need to find a list of people who are actually in pain. And how you find out if they're in pain is through data points. And how you find those data points, or how you decide which data points to find, is by writing an email to someone, assuming that you had perfect data. That's pretty much the core learning here. So, the old way of doing things, like I mentioned, was basically scraping a big list of firmographic data, writing one email to the whole list using a template you found online, or getting your CMO and your whole marketing team to come together and you draft this one email that's like 300 words long and is going to land in spam anyway. And then you ask for a meeting straight away. So you're saying, like, can I have 30 minutes of your time straight away without offering any value to them at all up front, and just pitch slapping them straight away. And then any personalization you do is just generic personalization based on their company description or like their landing page. And you're really not diving deep into anything they're actually experiencing right now. And this is kind of the way people have been doing it for forever, basically. And it is still the way people do it today. Like, I've seen it firsthand. But this, as most people have seen who have tried this, it's working less and less each day. And there is a new way of doing things. And if you don't adapt, then I think you will find it harder and harder to get any kind of outreach to work for you. The new way of doing things is, like I mentioned, you scrape a list of people slash companies already showing that they have a pain that you can solve. So when your list is targeted, the list becomes the message, because when you know the whole list is in pain, the message becomes super easy to write. And this is kind of hard to understand or explain until you've actually seen a list that's in pain. But I'll give you an example in a minute. So, obviously, this is easier said than done. To actually find a list of companies who are in pain based on real data you found online can be a lot easier said than done. Because some people would take this and say, like, oh, okay, if our ideal customer profile fits these firmographics and this is what they look like, and they will be in pain from the problem that we solve. But it's like, you haven't actually, from any real data, seen that they're actually in pain. And the chances are they might not actually be in pain. So here's an example of like how you could apply this and find a list of people who are actually in pain and for a service that you could like for a solution that you offer. So if you basically sell Google review management services that help local businesses remove negative reviews. So like I've seen a lot of these services recently. So someone will be getting a negative review, and then your service can come in. You've got like lawyers or people who know Google, and you help them like message Google and get that review removed. Um, a way that you could apply this concept in your business would be you build a list of local businesses. That's what most people would do, and then they just ram that list. But these are the steps that actually find the list that's actually in pain. So you'd use Clay to scrape their recent Google reviews, and then you filter the list to companies that have recently had negative reviews. And then you write an email referencing the exact review that they received, and how that will negatively impact their business, ideally mentioning what the review's about. So if it was about, I don't know, bad hygiene at a restaurant, you'd really personalize that to how that one review is going to affect the psychology of other customers coming into the shop or debating whether to come to the restaurant. And then you provide a step-by-step plan on how to remove it, for free. So like you give them the solution that they can actually go and do without you. And that is where like the permissionless value is coming from. Like you're giving them value like upfront. You're not asking for a 30-minute call or any of this. You're just giving it to them. And then once you've impressed them, once you've started that conversation, they actually like you because you've helped them out. You can then sell them the implementation on the back end. So they might not want to do it themselves, or they might want you to manage it long term going forward. So this is like a really simple example of this. Like Jordan Crawford does it for much more complicated solutions for like vertical SaaS companies where you're using a lot more data. But this is kind of like the most simple example I can think of, um, without getting too complicated. And I just want to say, like, from this video, banger offers, like amazing offers, still print money with cold outreach. So I'm not saying you're not going to get amazing results if you just have a great offer. You will. And if you just get that offer in front of as many companies that fit your TAM as possible, yeah, you're still going to get results. But for a lot of B2B companies, it's not as simple as that. So, for example, if you sell an enterprise software, you're going to be a little bit more sophisticated than that. And that is where actually impressing your prospect and adding value to their life can create big wins. Because if your sales cycle is a year long and you need to basically create relationships and give value to all these different stakeholders and decision makers in the sales process, it's not as simple as just like sending a banger offer to someone. Whereas for a lot of people, if you run like an agency or like a simple SaaS product, it can be as simple as that. And I'm definitely not saying not to do that because that definitely works. Um, this other method, like it's not quick, but when you can make a positive impression at scale to your entire market, you can build relationships quickly, which in the long run are going to pay big dividends, especially if you're trying to close these huge deals with loads of different decision makers. But yeah, that's kind of the video. Hopefully I explained that well. If you want to learn more about like how to apply these frameworks, I'm going to be uploading some example videos on here, so make sure you subscribe. But if you're interested in any B2B go-to-market services, mainly on the cold email side, you can book a call with the link in the description and we can have a quick chat about whether we would be a good fit for you. But other than that, thanks for watching the video.